Jonathan. Does anybody recognize this chart or the content of this chart? You can't read it.
It says millions of years to thought.
Yeah, millions of years. So these are all the geologic time periods. All of them. And the other day I was reading through Nikolai's book. Nikolai got this dinosaur book. You know, it's an adult book, so it's over my head. But the one part I saw, this chart isn't from it, there was a suggested mnemonic for memorizing all of the periods of a certain era. The periods where you would find dinosaurs. Because to a scientist, the geologic timetable is three things: fact, important, and a tool for them. That's why they have this mnemonic. If you're going to be anything around science, if you have this memory or memorized, you'll be doing okay. We have our periods, our time periods of the Bible. And so it would behoove us, because they are fact, they are important, and they are a tool to go through them. In fact, on the way here, I asked Nikolai, I said, Nikolai, how many of those can you tell me of the geologic timetable? He said, why would you want to know? They're fake. But these aren't. So Nikolai memorized these. Okay, our first time period, the way that we go through this, the first one is creation. And then, very quickly, there was corruption, the fall. I think Gary said, somebody said. And then there's the time of Noah, and then Terah, and Abraham, and they are the patriarchs. Thank you. And then there's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jacob's 12 sons go to Egypt. Would you say captivity? Yeah. Yeah, Egypt, and they're there for quite a while, and then they come out and they get they receive they go to the law. That's right. They go to the law, there's the Exodus, they go to the law, and then they're going to go into the land, but they got to wander for 40 years. And then there's the conquest, and then it's peace. Peace reigns. No, instead there's chaos. No, judges, or the Wild West. I heard Rick Duggan say many years ago. There's the time of the judges, and then they say, enough of these judges. We don't want judges anymore. We want one king. So we have the United Kingdom, and then that leads us to the divided kingdom, and then the divided kingdom leads us to what's going to happen for first exile, right. I'm just going to put it under exile. We'll get to the first and second and third and fourth in a little while. So there's the exile, and then they're exiled, and then they return, and then there is a period of silence. You're with me here. And then the best thing that ever happened. Yes, the fullness of time, right. Christ. And then he ascends into heaven and the world ends. No, what happens immediately after he ascends into heaven? Yeah, the church is established, and it's that's what Acts is about. It's multiple. There were multiples and multiples and that's what you read in Acts. And so it's firmly established in the world. It'll take a little bit more time. It's firmly established. And then what happens next? We read them. Letters, right? And I think I end this here with that, because to me, I could put my birthday there, but that's not as important as this stuff, right? Okay. Now, the time periods. This is the Jurassic, this is the Crustacean, and so on and so forth. And the scientist, what does he do? He assigns what's to those time periods? He assigns numbers. Right. 4.5 billion years, and the ones that the mnemonic is only for the last 500 million years. So they just kind of write off the first 4 billion years of the earth. They don't write it off. They have, okay. So we'll go through our dates. Our dates of the Bible. All dates are approximate. Approximately when was the, and we start here. When was this, when did this happen? Roughly. I'm sorry.
1450.
Yeah, 1450, 1440 is what I have. I don't know why I have 1440. There's the law of Moses. And then the next one we really go down to is here. This period, this whole period lasts something like how many years until we get to here?
About 400.
About 400, right? So that brings us down to about 1050 or so. And who's king? Saul. King Saul. And who reigns after him and for how long?
David, 40 years.
And who reigns after him and for how long?
Solomon, 40 years.
40 years. And then what happens?
Chaos.
Chaos. Otherwise known as divided kingdom. The kingdom divides and then there's chaos. There's continued chaos. And until what happens? The Assyrians take the northern kingdom approximately when?
720.
Yeah, 720-ish, right? 722 is what I have. The northern kingdom, and then the divided king exile. That's exile 1. Exile 2 happens when? Who goes where when? Exile.
Babylonians. They take 3 different stages. I'm not even breaking that all.
Yeah, we will. Yep.
Okay.
So the first one.
Was it 605 or 606?
605 or 606, the Babylonians, and Gary didn't mention it, but took the remaining Israelites, the southern kingdom. And then he does this again when-ish? Anybody?
597.
Yeah, something like 596. So it's 676, right? There's the second, 586 is the third time. Who goes where? Here, 606. Daniel goes to Daniel and the higher ups, the higher echelon. Daniel, Shadrach, is that what you're going to do? Yeah. Who goes where here? Ezekiel goes to Babylon. Where is Ezekiel? Daniel and Ezekiel are both in Babylon. Daniel is with the king. Nice for Daniel. Ezekiel is with the people. And who's back in? Jeremiah. Right. Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim.
Am I saying it right?
I'd have to turn to 2 Kings real quick. Or Jeremiah, whichever. I can't remember them right now. I should. 2 Kings 25. So there is Zedekiah. There's Jehoiakim dies. Jehoiakim reigns for 3 months. He goes to Babylon. Jehoiakim goes to Babylon. And he'll be the one that in Babylon some 30 years later is released and sits in each of the kings. So Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim, and then there's Zedekiah. Okay, I have to get those back into my mind. That's what happens. I lose it if I don't use it. 586, 536. Who does what? Where? Here? Yes. Who lets them return? Cyrus. And just so you know, Cyrus actually becomes king in 549 or so, okay? He becomes king of the Medes, okay? It won't be until 539, 536 that he becomes king of the Medo-Babylonian, okay? He's been king for a while, then he attacks the Babylonians. The first exiles, 520. What happens here? Okay, all right. Maybe, but that's not really in the record. In Ezra, what happens is they come back and they're all gung-ho and they start rebuilding the temple. And then they stop because people are saying, hey, let us join you, and they write to the king. And then in 520 is when they restart building the temple. Who are the two prophets at that time? Haggai and Zechariah, okay. And they're mentioned in Ezra. In Ezra chapter 4, I think it says it takes them 4 years to rebuild it. So in 516, it's rebuilt. The next wave, Ezra will return in what date?
458.
Nice. He's been waiting months to say that. 458. That's right. 458. Ezra returns, and then in 442, 444 is when Nehemiah, and then we have this silence. We say whatever. AD 30, Jesus Christ, and then AD 70. I include that down here also. And there we end it. Comment, questions on this? We've done it enough. All right. Enough of this. Back in Obadiah. Today we're in Obadiah. Sometime between 586, which is when Jerusalem is destroyed, and in Obadiah, they are yelled at. They are disciplined for allowing this to happen or standing by. It would have happened no matter what. Sometime between 586 and 562. 562 is when King Nebuchadnezzar dies, and that's essentially the end of the Babylonian expansion, because they won't do much after that, not Babylon. During this time, during 586 and 562, and before that, Nebuchadnezzar had been coming through and coming through and coming through and coming through again through this area. So the area is restructured during this time period completely. If you look at a map before 586, or actually probably about 620, if you look at a map at 620 and look at one in 539, it's a different place. Peoples are all over the place. Having said that, I have a little asterisk there, because some people believe that Obadiah was written in prophetic past, as in Obadiah wrote it before the fall of Jerusalem. Obadiah wrote it before the fall of Jerusalem, but God knew what was going to happen, and so he wrote it in past tense, prophetic past tense. We see that all over the place. I have no opinion. I have a tiny opinion. And since even if I had a big opinion, it wouldn't be worth much, I'll just keep it to myself. Just for our record keeping, it's one of my great... Gary, have you ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay, good. All right. So this is where we got to go. We got to get here sometime. Just so you know, we are right here. So, and we are, as far as prophets go, we only have to do a few chapters of Daniel, most of Daniel actually, and then Daniel, and then Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, and we'll be done with the prophets. Okay, we still have to go through Ezra and Nehemiah and Esther, but just so you know, it looks like, oh man, it's taking us forever to get here, but actually the rest of it will be relatively much more quickly. All right, Obadiah, Edom, sons of Esau, right here. That's where they are. You may recognize this picture, or these pictures. This is where Gary and Colleen are going next. I hope to go with them. Anybody know what that is? Petra. Anybody know what Petra means? Rock, right? Here are, this is more of the city. It's a whole bunch that looks like that. So there's where Edom is. Now, Obadiah, verse 1. The introduction to Edom. Thus says the Lord concerning Edom, we have heard a report from the Lord, and an envoy has been sent among the nations, saying, arise, let us go against her for battle. I don't know if they're hearing that Edom has called to the nations to say, let's go beat up Israel. It will talk about their allies in verse 7. Or is it God is calling Nebuchadnezzar and the nations to come and beat up Edom for what Edom has done? I have a tiny opinion. Whatever it is, they've heard something. Now we get to the theme. Verse 2, behold, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. I would say this is the theme statement of this text. I'm going to bring you down. We notice that not all of God's word is quote unquote happy. You know, oh yay, who wants to read some of God's word? Let's read the inspiring message of Obadiah. Well, it is inspired and it is inspiring, but not like some of the other messages, right? So just beware. And remember this, as soon as you get this into your mind, that not all of God's message is good news, the sooner you get that into good news, happy, makes you feel happy, happy, joy, joy, the sooner you get that into your mind, the better off you are. So you can realize, wait a minute, I don't want to receive this letter. I want to receive a happy, happy, joy, joy letter, right? All right, so you are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. Why? You who live in the clefts of the rock. Here's our picture again. Oh, how would you feel if you lived there, right? Yeah. I mean, who can burn that? They shoot their arrows. First of all, even if they get to this place, okay? So you've heard of Thermopylae. Thermopylae was this big battle where it lasted for several days, where the Greeks held off the Persians for a little while in this little ravine. Only 300 men could hold off an army of a million, or whatever the numbers are, okay? Because of the strategically placed little valley. Go there on your swinging through to Petra, okay? Well, it's the same idea here. The cliffs are 2,000 feet on the sides of some of these places, not all. And to get into, if you ever look at the pictures, if you get to this place, you could see, you could easily, I could hold off an army in those places, right? How prideful they would be. Oh, nothing can destroy us. We live in the rock. Can you think of a time in the Bible where God created an earthquake? I can think of 3. In fact, I think the New American Standard uses the term only 3 times. Where's the first that you might remember? Korah's rebellion. Nice job. Number 16 or something like that. Stand aside, the rest of you. And the earth opened up and swallowed them. God couldn't do that there, could he? Number 2, fast forward 1,500 years. Or do you have another one?
Isn't that one of the things that God was not in? That we by the prophet?
The earthquake in Elijah? I don't know if he was not. There was an earthquake. If it is, the New American Standard doesn't use the term there.
There is with Christ.
Yes, that's the next one where the term is used, and it rolls away the tomb. And then number 3, and the last that I know of, the Philippian jailer. Right, yes, and the building shook. God couldn't do that there, could he? I find this interesting because we sing the song. So actually, before we get there, the point is this. Even rocks are nothing to God. You know, yeah, back then, that was it. You had that place, and you're doing all right. Right? You're doing pretty good. Nowadays, what do we have? We have missiles. We're about to put some kind of an army in space. That's how bad we are, right? Don't rely on it. Don't rely on it. God can bring us down, okay? So here's the irony. What song do we teach our children? The wise man built his house upon the rock. But yet God says, I will bring you down. Why? Because the rock, only if the rock is figurative of Jesus Christ, right? Build your house on Jesus Christ. Comment or question? I'll just keep on going unless somebody interrupts me here. You who live in the clefts of the rock, in the loftiness of your dwelling place, who say in your heart, who will bring me down? I love this question. Who will bring me down? Though you build high like an eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there, oh, here's the answer. I, the Lord, he says, saying, I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how will you be ruined? Would they not steal only until they had enough? So normally, when a thief comes, he steals until he's had enough and says, I got to get out of here. That's what normally happens. But not if the grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave some gleanings? That's what the grape gatherers normally do, not you guys. Verse 6, oh, how Esau will be ransacked and his hidden treasure searched out. They're going to keep going and going. There's going to be nothing left of Edom when they're done. By the way, who is Edom? Who is Esau? Their family. Obadiah, Edom has what I'm calling the friends and family plan. Right? First of all, they're mistreating their family. And secondly, they're going to be brought down by their friends. All the men allied with you will send you forth to the border. And the men at peace with you will deceive you and overpower you. Though they who ate your bread will ambush you, will set an ambush for you. There is no understanding in them. So here, the very ones that they are friends with are the ones that bring them down. Because sometimes friends will do that. What's 1 Corinthians 15:34 say? Evil company corrupts good morals. Be careful who you choose as your friend. Proverbs 1. The word friend is not used here. But the idea is your friends. Hear, my son, verse 8, hear, my son, a father's instruction. Do not forsake your mother's teaching. Indeed, they are a graceful wreath to your head and ornaments on your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as down to the pit. We will find all kinds of precious wealth. We will fill our houses with spoil. On and on and on it goes. But in the end, they all die. Now, these aren't the person's friends. I don't know who they would be. Somebody who he's like, come on, come with us. We can do it. That sounds like our friends, doesn't it? If we're not careful. If we're not careful, we choose the wrong friends. By the way, and the end is we die with our quote-unquote friends. Or they're the ones that cause us the harm. In this case, in both cases. Verse 8 says, hear, my son, your father's instruction. Do not forsake your mother's teaching. Son, don't go after this. But this doesn't apply to daughters, does it? Daughters can have any friends that they want. Right? No. No, it's a proverb, which means it's generally true for everybody. And the idea is, hey, sons and daughters, boys and girls, men and women, be careful who you're spending your time with. Be very, very careful. Comments or questions here? So Obadiah, they're going to go down. The source of their destruction are their own allies. The certainty of their destruction. Verse 8, will I not, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men from Edom, and the understanding from the mountain of Esau. Job mentions the wise people of Edom, of Teman, which is down on the map. They're known for being wise. And in that day, we've got no problems. The rock will save us. Nope, the rock's not going to save you. Oh, that's okay. Our wise men will save you. No, the wise men aren't going to save you. Verse 9, then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman. Our wise men. No. Our mighty men. No. There is nothing that you can do. When I'm coming, says the Lord, you're done. That's it. There's nothing you can do. Why did all of this happen? The reason. Verse 10, because of the violence to your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame, and you will be cut off forever. I count 6 things. You can come up with something else. Verse 11, on the day you stood aloof, there's number 1. On the day when the strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Verse 12, do not gloat over your brother's day. They were just waiting. They were waiting for their enemies to fall. And they finally fell and they said, yes, we can now have everything that theirs. The day of their misfortune, do not rejoice over the sons of Judah in the day of their destruction. Yes, do not boast in the day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people. Now they're going into this. Before they were just standing back and saying, yes. Now they're saying, let's go. They are going into the gate of the people in the day of their disaster. Yes, do not gloat over their calamity in the day of their disaster, and do not loot their wealth in the day of their disaster, and do not stand at the fork of the road to cut down their fugitives, and do not imprison their survivors in the day of their disaster. And so they're going into the city, and those who are coming out of the city, they're either killing or imprisoning, probably for sale as slaves. That's what they did back then. Now, you notice, verse 10, this is where the friends and family part of the deal comes in. Verse 10, because of the violence done to your brother. And the idea is they had to break nature to be as bad as they were. You don't do this you don't do it to anybody, but if you're going to do it to somebody, you do it to somebody who's not your family. They not only did it to their family, they did it to their own brother. Now I realize the language is metaphorical, they're cousins. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob. Now, sometimes you'll have that. Sometimes you'll have family attacking family. Could you imagine that? I mean, after all, if you can't trust your family, who can you trust? Somebody answer the question.
God.
God. If you can't trust your family, who can you trust? If everybody trusts God, then you don't have to worry about trusting family. Not everybody's going to trust God, but you make sure you do. And then don't be surprised when those who don't trust God, even among your family, they come after you and do the most heinous things to you, right? So there's the reason. Verse 15. For the day of the Lord draws near on all the nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. I noticed this. In Matthew 7, we have the golden rule. The golden rule in Matthew 7 is stated this way. In everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. Treat them the same way you want them to treat you. This is stated before the opportunity. You're going to go out there, you're going to have opportunity. In that opportunity, treat other people the way you'd have them treat you. Obadiah states it after the blown opportunity. As you have done, it will be done to you. What goes around comes. This is justice. There's nothing more like justice than this.
You'll reap what you sow.
Yes. Right. Verse 16. Because just as you drank on my holy mountain, all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and swallow and will become as if they never existed. So, up until verse 16, I will bring you down. And it's a picture of Edom dying. They're laying there, they're dying. And the last thing that they see before they close their eyes in death is their dreaded, hated enemy, Israel, who they just beat up, coming back to life. Talk about adding insult to injury for Edom. But on Mount Zion, so while you're dying, out there in Mount Seir and Petra, but on Mount Zion, there will be those who escape, and it'll be holy. And the house of Jacob will possess their possession. See, they're coming back. You're never going to be a nation again. But Jacob, who you're picking on, they'll be back in their land. Then the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau will be a stubble. Not only will they be back in their land, but they are going to be consuming you like a fire. And they will set them on fire and consume them, so that there will be no survivor in the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken. Then those of Negev will possess the mountain of Esau, and those of the Shephelah, the Philistine plain, and also the territory of Ephraim, the territory of Samaria, and Benjamin will possess Gilead. And the exiles of this host of the sons of Israel, who are among the Canaanites, as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem, who are in Sepharad, will possess the cities of the Negev, which is the south. So he's just gone from the north to the south. We're going to have it all. The deliverers, or the judges, will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. Remember this, any given prophecy might be about one or two events. And I suggesting that verses 17 through 21 initially are about when Cyrus says, go back. None of the Edomites return back to their land. No, the Jews return back to their land. So we have this, on Mount Zion there will be those who escape. But of course, in this whole picture, you can't help but hear and smell and feel and see the messianic undertones or overtones, you might say, to it. So I believe that this verse 17 through 21, even verse 15 through 21, are talking about the return and also the messianic kingdom at the same time. A couple passages. Do you remember how Edom or Esau and Jacob started their life? And ended their... Well, no, they didn't end their life that way. How did they start it? Like siblings. Wait. Jonathan's talking about... Just whenever... What? Boy, at our house these last couple of days, this is what you had. All day long. Every day. Just like that. Except for them, it was a whole lot worse. Right? And one of them sells his birthright for a bowl of soup. And the New Testament will emphasize one bowl of soup. Even if it were 500 or one a day for the rest of his life, it would have been, he didn't care about things that truly matter. But emphasizing it with, it wasn't one a day for the rest of his life, it's just one. How much he doesn't care. He despises these things, right? And so there's this big fight. Jacob goes away, but when he comes back, what is he scared of? Esau, who wanted to kill him, he left because his brother wanted, Esau wanted to kill Jacob. But when Jacob comes back, Esau killed him right away, didn't he? No. He had, we say, gotten over it. He had repented, but his descendants hadn't. How sad. Also, another passage to turn to, Malachi. Malachi. So in Obadiah, you mistreated, or excuse me, Edom, you mistreated Jerusalem. You mistreated Judah. You mistreated your brethren. So I'm going to destroy you, and you will never come up again. Malachi 1:1, the oracle of the word of the Lord to Israel through Malachi. I have loved you, says the Lord, talking to Israel. But you say, how have you loved us? What have you ever done for us? Is their attitude. And God says, was not Esau Jacob's brother, declares the Lord. Yet I have loved Jacob, but I have hated Esau, and I have made his mountains a desolation and appointed his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness. Though Edom says, now listen. So in verse 3, they're saying, what proof do you have that you love us? And God says, your cousins no longer have a nation. There's proof. Cousins don't. I love you. I don't love anybody else like that. Not the same way. In verse 4, if you're wondering what Edom was thinking after they had lost their nation, verse 4 answers it. Though Edom says, we have been beaten down, but we will return and build up the ruins. So what are they thinking? They're thinking, we're going to come back. We're making a comeback, baby. Right? Though they think that, thus says the Lord of hosts, they may build, but I will tear down. And the men will call them wicked territory, and the people toward whom the God is indignant forever. Your eyes will see this, and you will say, the Lord be magnified beyond the border of Israel. So here's the end. We're seeing pictures of the end of this nation. I will put this map up here. This is a map of Rome, how Rome viewed this area. Where is he?
Not there.
Yes.
Wasn't Idumea considered part of Edom? Sort of?
Okay. Edom, yes, you're right. It's down here. This is Edom. This is the area of Edom. When, after during the time of Babylon, what started happening is Edom started shifting over to there, okay? And the Nabateans came over from the east, and they took Edom's land. And Edom never got their land back, and so over here we have, beginning with Antiochus Epiphanes, and around that time, they called this area Idumea. And you see Edom in it, right? Because the Edomites came over here. Now you might think, oh, they just shifted over there. Okay, even if they had, where are they not? Here. That's the point. Now, Judah's Maccabees, and the Maccabees took them over and forced them all to become Jews. Are they Edomites anymore? Definitely not, right? Even if they're Jews by force, they're not Edomites at all anymore. Herod, all the Herods are actually Edomites, okay? They were forced to become, they were raised Jews, but they're actually Edomites by ethnicity. But Edom is no longer the nation they once were and never were. You read of Edom? Did you read of Edom in the news today, or watch it, or Google it, or anything?
But the Idumeans, so to speak, were never loved by the Jews. They
Yes.
were forced, but they were not.
Right. Yeah, they're like Samaritans.
Yeah.
Sumerian. Either. Right. I guess I'll make these 2 points and then we'll stop. Oh no, we'll make 3 points. Why not? First point is this. When I read Obadiah, I get 2 sides of one point. And that is, don't pick on God's people. Or if you are God's people, don't worry if you're picked on. God won't let that person or that nation get away. Don't pick on God's people. God doesn't allow God's people, the ones who picked on them, to get away with it. Edom picked on God's people, and God judged them, right? Another point from this, and I'll finish. That's the main one. The main one is this. Just leave vengeance to God. Leave vengeance to God. That's the point here, right? God knows, He's watching, He's seeing, He's got time figured out, He's got nations figured out, He's also got justice figured out. So don't worry about that. Second thing, verse 11 says, on the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth, so this is Obadiah 11, and foreigners entered his gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. The words stood aloof can mean simply that. You didn't do anything, including you didn't come to your own brother's aid. You didn't help. One person writes it as culpable neutrality. You were culpable even though you were neutral. Another one wrote it as malicious unconcern. You weren't concerned for them, and because you weren't concerned for them, your unconcern is malicious. In the New Testament, we have a statement that says, to the one who knows the right thing to do, but does not do it, to him it is sin. Oh, but I just wasn't concerned. That's malicious. In this case, it's helping somebody. I knew to help them, and you didn't. It's not like you get a pass. I didn't do anything bad. No, it was your unconcern was malicious. You are guilty for your quote-unquote neutrality in the situation. George made the point on Sunday in his excellent sermon. He made an excellent point, and that is, God is doing God's things. And God has told us what to do. And we do what we know to do. And let God do His things. Now, George said it much more clearly and better than I did. But the point is this. Babylon is coming. Was it God's purpose that Babylon come? Did Edom know it? We don't know, but what they're in trouble for is not helping their brethren. Right? So they're guilty for not helping Israel when God was bringing the very ones that would do to Israel what they're guilty for not helping them then. Does that make any sense? Right?
they might have helped Israel, and Israel might still have fallen for evil.
Right.
Because that was what God's intention was.
Right.
But
guilty for not helping.
exactly.
Right.
That's what they're being for.
They should have done what they know to do. But what if God stop the thinking? Paid from here down, right? Discover what he said in here, do it. But what if God? Well, what if? Let God be God, and we'll just do what it is that we're supposed to do. Psalm 38:11 uses this expression. Psalm 38:11, David speaks of a time, or I don't know if it's David or not. Yeah, it's Psalm of David. Verse 10, my heart throbs, my strength fails me, the light of my eyes, even that has gone from me. My loved ones and my friends stood aloof, or stand aloof, from my plague, and my kinsmen stand far off. Hey, I'm having problems here, and my relatives, you would expect them to come and help, are not. But they weren't doing anything negative. But standing aloof, you would expect them to come and help. Is that as bad as doing something negative? Look in the next verse. Those who seek my life lay snares for me. So in verse 11, they're not helping me. In verse 12, they're actually trying to get me, and they're both the same. Right? So again, this malicious, unconcerned, I'm just not concerned. No, if you know to help somebody, God said, go help them, you better go help them. I'm done with points. Anybody else comment or question? I would want to speak for a moment on dispensational premillennialism. Anybody? Anything from Edom or Obadiah? Charles Ryrie on verse 15. So Obadiah 15. I said a few minutes ago that I believe this has dual fulfillment. The first mountain, the first fulfillment is the return, when Edom is no longer a nation, but Israel is reestablished as a literal nation. And then, of course, this really talks about the establishment of the kingdom of God in Christ. Many dispensational premillennialists will say, for example, so in verse 15, the day of the Lord draws near. And any time a dispensational premillennialist reads the day of the Lord, they automatically go where? Yet future, to 2018, wherever we are now. The day of the Lord draws near on all the nations. And that's all we need to read. So Charles Ryrie, he's a dispensational premillennialist, says, the aspect referred to here is the time of Christ's second coming and the judgments on all the nations that accompany that event, Joel 3:2. Edom's punishment, however, does not await that future time, but has already been carried out. Comment?
Well, the last part is true.
Do they get it? Yes, and then they add. Look for it. Almost every time they get it, because guess what? It's there and it's unavoidable. And then they get... Now, did you read any in there that this is about this Christ's second coming? Did you read it in there? No. And you can take your time out later, but when you roll to Joel 3, you will not read it of Christ's second coming. Right? Okay, so for more clear thinking, John MacArthur in verse 15, God's near judgment of Edom in history was a preview of his far judgment on all nations. That may be true. First, does he get it? Yes. And then he adds something that may or may not be true. But he says it as fact. Right? So they get it and they add. C.I. Schofield. Verse 21. Now I'm jumping to verse 21. The deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. Now, a second ago, for the third time, I'm saying, I believe this has dual fulfillment. One is at the return in 536 BC, and the second fulfillment of this latter part of this chapter is at Christ's kingdom. Okay? This final verse is clearly messianic. Comments about that statement?
believe that clearly part. How?
Okay,
I mean, yes, it may be.
it may be.
But say clearly and to say definitely.
Right. So, this final verse may be messianic. Let's change it to that. Comment on that. Do you agree with it?
What did he say before that?
Okay, so, well I'm more concerned about what he's saying.
No, what did he say before that?
Oh,
How's he using this
term?
Yeah.
That's the point. What is he talking? What is Mr. Schofield talking about when he talks about the Messianic kingdom?
Right. Right.
He's not talking. So you got to. This is the point of this. You've got to look for this. Yes, it is messianic. I'll even jump so far as to agree it's really messianic. I'll go there with him. Yeah, but we're in it. Whereas he says it's clearly messianic, but we're not in it yet. Okay, so I agree with that to a degree. All right, and here's one more thing. R.C. Sproul, who is not a dispensational, he's not, okay? So the point is others can see it also. While all created reality is the Lord's right now, this is on verse 21, Obadiah is making a different point here. So get this first part. All created reality is the Lord right now. And how long, for how long has all created reality been the Lord's? How long has God been king? Okay, forever, right? So this expression, and the kingdom will be the Lord's, but the kingdom is the Lord's. The kingdom is Jehovah's. I agree 100% with what this guy's saying. While all created reality is the Lord's right now, Obadiah is making a different point here. That the kingdom will be the Lord's. The point is that the kingdom will be the Lord's in that he will judge his enemies and deliver his people with finality. And that's how this verse applies to 536. Look, when Judah came back, Jerusalem and Israel came back, and they were in their land, and Edom no longer had a land. He judged his enemies, finally, and delivered his people with finality, if you will, right? That's how I believe that this is being expressed here. So I think it has, yeah, the kingdom will be the Lord's. Is all this talking about the Messianic kingdom? I think there are definite undertones in it. But if I had to say what is this talking about, I would say 536 BC. Comments or questions? That's where I am. We've gone long.
If we needed to get more,
He would have probably said it.
So here we are where we can work with what we know, and he's doing whatever he's doing with that. And
right.
Every word of it might be messianic.
Right.
But apparently we don't need to have that figured out.
And we don't need to, because elsewhere we do have enough explicitly revealed to us that we can work from, right? And they do it with dispensational premillennialism. They just start guessing. Oh, I guess this, I guess that. They do the plan of salvation. God, so now I'm piggybacking off of George's point again from Sunday. Charles, I want to say Charles Krauthammer. Philip Schaff. Philip Schaff says, it is necessarily inferred from John 3:16 and Mark 16:16 that baptism was required for repentance. And this is almost a direct quote, I've read it so much. But, and I paraphrase, God can do what he wants. And where do Calvinists go with that? They forget the first part, and they live and die by the second part, right? Okay, I'm all done. Who has a song or... Okay, we'll just say a prayer, and then we'll be done. Marcus, if you're of the mindset, I know you're preoccupied, would you be willing to lead a prayer for us? Okay, thank you.